detailed as we can.
All
right, so and then I have the stream running. So if you open up another tab, like for some reason it does not let me split the camera. It only lets me do the audio thing. So hopefully you'll at least be able to see like where I'm pointing. It may be at a little delay, but
yeah, that's fine.
It is what it is. All right. The nurse pulls off her gloves and with a snap and smiles with equal alacrity. You're set. Equal. Okay. This is probably a Jeffrey detailed thing. The alacrity, well, I think that's an awesome word choice. I wonder if you can just, I feel like your image sticks so well as it is. Like, pulls out the gloves of the snack and gives a bright smile. Like, yeah, maybe like I think
I kind of like the
equal alacrity.
I think
like
you're a snap to me. So.
All right, maybe Fox is right. I think that's just I have a very like my style of writing is very based on the concrete, and I think Fox has a benefit where she can deal with more of the abstract. But it is style choices. You're all set. I edge off the table and smile weakly back. The cramping when she inserted this T-shaped piece of plastic was mild, dwarfed by the release that for the next 5 years. Now, until 2017, pregnancy was one less thing to worry about. Outside the clinic, my phone vibrates. Mom, I hesitate. Mom. Sorry. Mom! Mom, I hesitate. Oh, it's Mom. I hesitate. Then I yield and tap the green icon. Hi, Mom. I know it slips in my tone before she even speaks. This would just be more of a dialogue note because I think you're doing great showing the writing is really telling the story with the events. I think the only am I stinky?
No,
yeah, I'm pretty stinky.
The
trash.
Yeah.
I literally took it out like yesterday.
No, it's the fish stuff in there.
Oh,
I'm just gonna light a candle. Sorry, go ahead. I'm gonna light a candle.
That's why the apartment smells like fish.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got it.
I'll take it out right after this. I'm such a moron. I was like, why does the freaking apartment smell like fish?
Why. I was like,
oh my god. I may know a bunch of obscure literature, but I don't know much about why my apartment smells.
We had fish last night. Anyways.
Yeah. And in my true OCD fashion, like my hands smell like fish all day, and I was like, God, like Lady Macbeth, washing like out damn spot, like washing my freaking hands, trying to get that smell out. Anyways, right. Okay, so Mom says annoyance when she speaks. Any way to make the dialogue, like, is now the only time, Mom, or like, ugh, what is it? Like, whatever. My note there is kind of like, is there another way to express the annoyance? Mm-hmm. And it's weird, like, and I think you probably already know this, and let me know if I'm just like rambling too much about things you already know. But I feel like if there's like an order of operations in terms of like where the data usually like of like the emotion should go. If you can express it in the dialogue, that's the most showing. It's reporting what's live happening. That's usually best. Then like the scene description.
For a second, I don't know why I was just died.
Oh yeah.
You were saying it's weird and you probably know this, but.
Oh yeah, it's weird and you probably know this, but like usually when it comes like the place you want the showing to happen, there's kind of an order of operations. Usually dialogue is the best if it can show up, and in the emotion of what's like because the emotion here is annoyance, but the dialogue "Hi Mom" could have 10 different emotions attached to it. Yeah. And the fact that we only get the emotion tacked on first after. So like the thing that happens to the reader is they hear the dialogue in their head, then they have to go back and revise it to fit the emotion. So your goal usually when you're showing an emotion is to try to start as close to the concrete as possible. And then if you have to tell it further back, then that's fine. But if you can make the dialogue have like the words themselves of what's being said sound annoyed, meaning like, my jokes were like, oh, what is it? Like whatever it is. I slapped open the phone. What now? Like that implies the annoyance. And then that kind of revision process for the read doesn't necessarily have to happen. And it just streamlines it. That's what someone was calling me out about my writing today too, which I think they were actually right about, which is like, hey, there's just too much being said, and sometimes it can even just get to be, it's a little different note, but whatever. Anyways, I know what she's going to say when I tell her where I've been. Moments later,
It kicked me out of the thing again. I don't know.
Oh, weird.
You want me just to jump on the phone, or is that? I mean, I'm fine using speakerphone.
Let's try this one more time.
You want me to try a different one, or I'll call from a different one here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Foobity doop a doop doop.
Derp.
Doop.
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 Doop doop
Doop. Doop.
doop.
Doop.
Doop doop
Doop.
doop. Doop doop. Is this better?
It's just, yeah, they died on me, so we'll give it one more take.
Oh.
Rip.
All right. We get one thing I can do is I can turn the quality down, so I can even just like stop streaming because I don't really need to see your video necessarily. So I can turn that off. I can turn the incoming video. So I'm gonna turn my outgoing video down. No thumbnail video. That should help. I think sometimes like it'll just like prioritize like super high
Camera's
bandwidth.
muted.
Yeah, I know. I muted my
okay.
camera purposefully. Her camera's fine.
Got it.
Okay, cool. So we'll try this, and if it's good, it's good, and if not, then we got cell phones. Thank the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Okay. Moments later, confirmation. Isn't that birth control? Isn't that the birth control that acts as an abortifacient? I tick my head in irritation. What did the exact mechanism of the birth control matter? I let my phone dip a few inches below my ear as she prattles her objections. I'm only half listening. I'm not even sure I believe abortion itself is wrong. If a woman isn't ready to be a mother, isn't it more humane to end the unwanted life before it truly begins? Rationally, I'm convinced that if I ever have a child, So there's a few things to think about in terms of a general note. I'm noticing this is in the present tense. So one thing that's actually really tricky, and seems like a small note, but I think it's actually much larger, is this irrationally. Because that is a narrator coming in and commenting on the state of mind of the character in the scene. But you've been presenting the scene so far as if we're in it live in the present moment. Outside the clinic, my phone vibrates, I'm annoyed, like that's all present moment. And, oh yeah, shit, Take. Hello! Looks like Google Hangouts has fought us. Sorry about that.
So just repeat all that.
Yeah, I'll repeat all that. Sorry about that. Man, my freaking technical things these days. Is this okay though? You can hear fine?
Yeah, that's good enough.
All right, yeah. And the stream.
The present tense, which, I'm not totally sure why. I started writing it that way, and then I just kept going with it. But I don't.
It works.
I really haven't thought a lot about that, actually.
Well, I think the actual tense choices are okay, and that's something that's it's very easy to revise if you choose otherwise. But the thing that I would push you to think about is comments like that irrationally. So, and I don't know if that was in the video, but pretty much what that does is when you have that irrationally note, that essentially takes us out of the present into a retrospective narrator, right? Because somebody who's not in that present scene is commenting on it. So those, if you do stay in the present tenses, will be things that you'll really want to be aware of. And if your point of view narrator is jumping into the future, and like, because it kind of is, and like, and it kind of gives it this particular story this weird vibe because you are bringing in this future commentary of like, this is an irrational thought. This is a, more adult Chrissy that's commenting on her this older self of the speaker. But if
I did think it was an irrational fear.
oh, even then,
Yeah, it's like not because it's not based. I don't have like a history of anything. I just
That is a Chrissy Dice thing.
kind of irrational fear, but if it reads that way, I still think I could drop it. I don't think that's necessary to this paragraph.
yeah, I mean,
Although if I don't have that, then it kind of sounds to me like I have some reason for thinking that. Where I think what I'm trying to convey here is that, yeah, it's this fearfulness.
yeah. I mean, I think that would be, and this is actually a really interesting thing to maybe test, is try using some literary devices. Try using questions, like, a lot of like, what if, if I have a kid, it'd probably be like, very short sentences. So see if through the way you use sentence structure and language that you can communicate that feeling of anxiety. Because you can make something that's, a really great example of this, and it's a Christian author as well, is Notes from the Underground by Dostoevsky. And I'm sure Kevin has probably read this because he likes his Russian authors. But it's a much shorter, accessible Dostoevsky, but you get a sense like, his first lines of the book are very famous, and I might not be quoting it exactly, but it's like, I'm a broken man, I'm a miserable man, I think I'm getting sick, I don't feel well, something's wrong with my heart, and that he's just like it's not what he really believes, he's just someone who's caught up in his mind. And that might be a technique to try if you want to move away from something that could make it feel retrospective when it's actually not retrospective.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I'll try a device like rapid fire sentences or questions.
All right.
Now I'll move on. And let me know, you can just be like, Jeff, move on. The thought stabs and spike of terror. I couldn't handle that. This is really good. The thought stabs me with a spike of terror. I couldn't handle that. Proximity to so much pain, being helpless to fix it, but responsible for its care.
Let's get rid of that apostrophe and it's. It's my 2 cents.
Oh, good point.
I hope.
But what do you? Oh, we'll finish this one. I want to make sure that you have some.
Oh yeah.
I think you always have really good ideas. Fortunately, my mother moves on. Had I spoken to my brother lately? I picture her eyebrows. Fortunately, my mother moves on. Have I spoken to my brother lately? I picture eyebrows furrowing as her concern blooms through the airwaves. He's been voicing some strange new thoughts, something about the apocalypse. At this, her unease touches me too. We're not a religious family. We don't talk about God or apocalypses. But I've had enough on my mind without adding worries about my brother. I tell my mom I'm getting on a bus, and in the call before any more her anxiety leaks on to me. I like that. I really think this is a great way of showing that the idea in the previous draft that this pain is transferable, that if you share someone else's pain or anxiety or fear, it actually can become quite burdensome. So I think this is a good, I think this is how I'm reading that line is it's an intro to that idea. It's not, you probably will still have to flesh it out more. It's a good seed of that idea so it can evolve later.
Cool. What I'm going for.
What do you think, Fox?
No.
First section.
Oh no, I like it. I mean, like I knew you back then, so it's. I've known you a long time, so I remember having these conversations with you about the stress of whatever was going on with your brother, and just all these thoughts.
Well, how do you think that's actually good because you know that situation. Do you think Chrissy's fear and like whether it was distancing from those uncomfortable things, do you think that's showing up in the prose so far? Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. And you know what that experience was like as it drips into the prose, and that's like a ding from my computer alerts me to a GChat message from my brother. We still on for the Grand Cafe tonight? I respond, yep. Minutes later, the chat dings again. BTW, have I told you about my worldview quake from exposure to Rene Girard? Another uneasy ripple. I don't know who Rene Girard is, but worldview quake echoes back. Echoes back to the conversation with my mom. I reply with a cautious no. Unfazed, my brother types out a rapid suggestion of realizations about Jesus, the God-man who turned suffering into a redemptive act. My mind bobs between concern and a browser tab where I've pulled up the Grand Cafe's menu. I love that. What a great detail. That's a great detail. Because that's the goal, is like when you, those relatable moments make a reader who's unfamiliar with what the character's going through want to connect with the character.
Like you're concerned, but it's not so much that you can't still distract yourself from it.
Yeah, and it makes what, because I do stuff like that. So then it says, oh, this person is similar to me, so their journey should matter to me as well. So I think that's a very good thing. I type in I'm committal before changing the subject. God that chose to suffer. I don't see the logic or the appeal. I don't know if there's a comma there necessary. I do that all the time. But sorry, I'll try to avoid little mini grammar things and stay high level.
I will point them all out. No, just kidding.
The perfect fall day, and now this one does need a comma. It's a perfect fall day, and I'm going to make the most of it with a long, through my favorite, well, it's a little verbose. I would just rephrase this. I'm going to make the most of it with a long walk. There's a lot of prepositions before we get to the base clause. Takes a while. Maybe later I'll see if my friends are free for a drink. Again, this one is one where a question can sometimes, so the second sentence is a little bit cumbersome. There's a lot, it's establishing that it's a thought in the beginning, and then it tells us a thought. So it takes a little bit of work to get to that idea of, maybe it's just, I smile and wonder. I smile at the sun. I wonder if.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can do, is Danielle free for a drink later? It doesn't matter. Maybe not the question, but yeah, with the guilty lurch, I remember a friend who reached out last week. She's still reeling from a painful breakup. Should I call to see how she's doing? Well, what can I say? I can't fix it. Okay, I like that. Maybe, so again, this is coming at as a little bit, this is summary, right? Like this is taking those mental processes that with a guilty lurch, this is taking, you have the spike of guilt, your brain registers, oh wait, I can't get a drink with Danielle, she just had a terrible breakup, or whoever it was. I don't think it was, no, that was just because I just put your name in earlier. But I would break this apart because what happens is that summary around an emotional change, right? So pretty much this is an emotional change. You're going from this carefree experience to suddenly having anxiety about dealing with someone else going through a painful situation. Try to do a little more play-by-play in moments like that. Like that's where summary is actually going to be least helpful. Summary is really great when the emotions are consistent and you're cutting between things. It's a very helpful tool. But when an emotional change is going, I want to see the stop of realization. I want to see like the, ooh, wait, she just broke up with Steve. Ooh, yikes, I want to not have this emotional change in summary. Because that's where the reader, will get the context on what your fear of pain, of the pain of others feels like, what the speakers. So, because that's where, it's a concept a lot of people haven't thought about, right? Like this anxiety against someone else's suffering and not wanting to engage because it could drag them away. I think that's something we all experience, but it's not something we all introspect about. So I think you will find that you might have to take extra care to really help me see what this emotion looks like in you, so I can then see what it looks like in me.
Yep.
Okay, cool. This version. How the, Yeah, let me know if I'm talking too much or whatever.
No, so far good pace.
Okay. She's still reeling from painful. Very probably close about what should I say? I can't fix it. Again, I want to see like because this is another, and it doesn't feel like summary, but it is like I can't fix her pain. Like, what does that mean? Like, what would like? Does that mean like you telling yourself sarcastically like, what the hell am I gonna tell her? Like, go to a bar and meet someone else. Like other fish in the sea. Like I'm just gonna feel crappy afterwards. That's stupid. Like I kind of want to understand the play-by-play of that emotion of I can't fix her pain. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I had another part that I deleted that I could put back there.
Yeah. I don't call. I don't get a drink of my own. I get
Yeah, was this different earlier?
Yeah. So that's actually interesting. If you read the previous example I had here, I wasn't sure if that was the right kind of fear, but it was I included a different example about anxiety.
Yeah, I kind of liked that other one, but...
Interesting. And for a while I had both, but then I was like, that's too much in this one walk. But I could find that real easy in the version control and just paste it in.
Just like looking, just looking ahead, I remember the other one was more of like an existential thing. It was more of just like a feeling of like, if I recall correctly, more just like a general anxiety about like life, right? Did I make that up?
This part, can you see what I'm looking at here?
Oh yeah, I can take a look. Do you want me to read that section?
Sure.
I set out in high spirits, but a persistent...
If this is what you were thinking of, Danielle.
Yeah, yeah.
And this would come in right after I can't fix her pain, or is this a separate section?
It plays with the same type of experience, so it could be the same day. And most of these are like conglomerations of, things that happened roughly. So I could put these in the same day or not. I think probably it would be something like, just it's a perfect fall day and I'm going to make the most of it with a long walk. So this is probably instead of the friend call, or I can put the friend call after this.
Yeah, it's just a different kind of fear. But
I think I like, and I just kind of read through it silently. I think I like the first one, the content of the first one. I think the second one, I at least haven't felt that a OCD level fear of like, kind of those looping mental fears. I haven't seen that present earlier. Like that would be, we're already through. Yeah. So I actually think that was a good cut, maybe not to have this in there.
I guess the only thing that I like about it is that you start to question yourself a little bit there, which I think is a better setup for the next little scenario. And this one, you're still pretty like content. You're just like, nope, I don't call. I get a drink, and it's nice cool beer. And the other one, you're kind of start to like question yourself, like I'm going insane, like what's wrong with me, which kind of sets up the next. That's the only reason I like. I agree that in the context of what we're talking about, the context is better, but I think that just moving into kind of like the transition scenarios that are upcoming, I think it works better to have you like dealing with not just like, oh, should I call this person? No, I don't think I will. Like I'm just gonna go get a drink.
Yeah. That's also just it's so helpful to give like, because I had those two thoughts of like, this example makes more sense for context, but I like the other one. I was like, well, I need to show the build up. So I think that's good to know that I do need to show more of that, how I get to the next paragraph where I'm like distraught and.
Yeah, because even like I kind of forgot. I didn't like at first realize that you'd necessarily cut something out, but I was sort of like, oh, that seems like a hard like. Because I always glance ahead, and I was sort of like, oh, I don't remember it being that like quick of a transition. I remember it kind of being built up.
And that's funny because you've read it through, so you know what's coming, and so you are saying, but then you are saying that it doesn't set up what's coming next,
right? And
my fear, as someone who's only read up to this point, is that this point has not been set up by what's before.
Well, that's why I'm saying like it doesn't have to necessarily be the like OCD thing, but I think the
It does need to
sentiment
zoom out.
involved, the sentiment of like you're being insane, like the whirl of anxiety, just like oh my gosh, like I have this like fear inside me because I remember
Yeah.
that was something that you really talked about around that time where you were like you told me like I feel like the ground is falling out from underneath me, or like I just feel like I have this like anxiety and this fear and I don't have anything to rely on or stand on and all that. I just remember that so specifically. Even so, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, again, that's like
Well,
tough to.
You might maybe that I and I don't know what you would say, Chrissy, but I wonder if that existential level fear could apply to this
Yeah.
girl whose pain you can't fix. And if maybe it's not just not being able to fix it, but I know like a lot of it could be like contamination. Like, oh, if I talk to her and she's broken up with someone, maybe who I'm dating is going to break up with me, or whatever. Like, maybe there's some sort of like train of thought. Because I do wonder why that fear of the pain of others features so much in your writing. And I think it has to be something existential. Like, because you don't write about something that often and with that much exacting thought unless it's actually been something that's really been something that's been that's been a big part of one's thought life. So like I wonder if maybe you can get that higher level emotional thing by just exposing, and I kind of wrote a little note here, like maybe that feeling of like I'm losing my kind of grip a little bit on what is a realistic thing to be anxious about when it comes to that pain.
Yeah. And I don't think it has to be super extreme, but yeah, that was something that I liked. So if we can make it work, okay, cool.
Yeah, no, that's really. Danielle cut out a little bit, sorry.
Oh, that's because I'm soft-spoken.
Huh?
I'm just kidding. No, I was just saying if you can make it work, that'd be cool, but it doesn't have to be like a huge thing. But I do think, yeah, like if you could tie those two together.
Yeah, I agree. I think
that's really good feedback.
Cool.
And Danielle knows more, so I would honestly probably take her advice because I haven't read on yet. So I didn't cheat.
It's about me, Jeff.
Uh-oh. Sitting on the front porch of a friend's apartment, I stare out of a tree-lined street. Leaves rustle and laughter echoes. Up from a cluster of kids a few houses down. Against a serene backdrop of inner gears, my brain clacked louder until the confusion for the weeks. But what's going on with me? I'm writing a pendulum. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense why you would want to. And I think, and honestly, I think, Chrissy, it may be an easier solution than you think. I honestly believe that if you just de-summarize those two summary points in the previous paragraph, I think you're right. This may still not be necessary. Oops, I didn't. I wanted to be track changes. Why did that disappear?
It's in the version history if I want to look.
Oh, okay.
Because it's an addition.
Yeah, so I think that if you just expand on those two places where you're summarizing the experience of those thoughts, I can't fix your pain with a guilty lurch, like that may lead in, because I think Danielle's right. You do need a little bit more context to go into this next section.
Yeah.
Leaves rustle and laughter echoes up from a cluster of kids a few houses down against a serene backdrop. The inner gears of my brain clack louder until the confusion that's been mounting for weeks. I like, and this may be a smaller note, but I like the use of imagery here, but it also, I don't get the feeling of a pendulum swinging of anxiety and emptiness. So like the inner gears of my brain clacking, that feels like something that's logical. That feels like that imagery may not necessarily fit the emotion you're trying to convey. I don't feel the sense of loss of grit,
Yeah.
This image doesn't seem to. All right. My friend looks apologetic when she asks, have I considered praying about it? I'm dumbfounded. She, too, now believes my brother's Christian God. Her words are the dynamite to my sure-walled belief that faith is only for the foolish. I walk home carrying them like a candle, fearful of its flame, but encouraged by its strange and patchy light.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Me too.
Not just because it's about me.
I think the one thing is, and it sounds like I haven't. There haven't been many callbacks to childhood and child rearing yet. So that might be something, again, like I think this section, the one about like that kind of initial kind of getting a drink with a friend but getting it on your own, you know, maybe it's like somebody who's pregnant, you know, that's a bad example, but like or maybe like that boyfriend, you know, never wanted a kid and she did and that's why they broke up. Like anything like that, like even however small, I think needs to, if that's still going to be the primary subject of the essay, I think it needs to just be in even just a detailing sense. It can even just be a detail among these stories, but it should be a hint there. And like, you know, even when you're talking about now, she too believes in my Christian God, you know, the God that sacrificed, you know. You know, I can't write. I didn't even capitalize God. But like, I like, you know, like there's you probably don't have to rewrite. Sacrifice. Danielle's just mocking me. Oh God, it sucks to have a little dyslexia. Anyways, but you probably don't need much. But I think that if you detail, like, because I think it's a very fascinating thing when you talk about your walk and your Christian God, about suffering and what that means about kind of the Trinitarian family and how that relates to human families. You know, I think that's a really one that can be a cool thing to explore, but it also just lets you have that child rearing theme, or like this, you know, having a kid theme run a little bit more consistently throughout. I've been reading more about this strange God. Some of it perhaps is not so strange. Galatians 6:2, carry each other's burdens, and in a way you will fulfill the law of Christ. I shy away from the other's burdens, and I know it. Shied away from getting a drink with X. You know, and give more details there, but I would list. So this is a really great place to use a list. And you can use a list here to summarize what you've been establishing before. You know, I shied away from my brother's, you know, crazy, you know, whatever, craziness, from my mom's anxiety, from getting a drink. And I think that's one of the things that I've seen. It's weird. And if you look in modern fiction or in modern nonfiction, one of the most utilized tools is lists. It's such a powerful device. So anytime you can take a conceptual idea and turn it into a list and
especially like in something like this where it's just this series of vignettes and then you have this like culminating moment, it seems like a perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. I thought like these sentences were a little some there lead, some are summary. So that makes sense. That's great.
Yeah. And like honestly, it sounds kind of silly, but like sometimes I'll just kind of have a mental list of like devices, or even like a written one where it's like, okay, because for a while in my fiction I was really struggling with interior thought, and I would like make myself put a question, like a why should I do that, like in the action lines, to like make interior thoughts be more present. You've probably seen that in the distributor and been like, why the heck is Jeff doing that? It's because struggling with the same thing. My phone rings, mom again. Oh, yeah, but maybe all the energy. My phone rings, mom again. Scripture verse in mind resolves to be more patient. 10 minutes passed and 15. My patience drains to a puddle at my feet. Her worries drip through the phone and add to my discomfort. I love it. Mm-hmm. So that's like more what I experience, you know. But then I kind of want to see, because that's a cause, right? So her worries drip through the phone and add to my discomfort. I kind of want to, and maybe it's the add to my discomfort bit can be a little bit more concrete. Like my heart starts pounding. My own anxieties start like slamming into the front of my skull. I feel a headache behind my eyes. Like, you know, whatever that is, like I think that is exactly in the right direction, but now I just push it just an inch further.
You're going to be a very good writer, Chrissy.
Well, thank you. Sometimes I write something and I'm like, this would make Captain Daniel proud.
I'm glad. It does.
What'd she say?
Voices in my head encouraging me to, some of the stuff, some sentences I just started out and I like made them ridiculous and then I like pared them down a little. But
Yay.
your voice is encouraging me to do more, say more.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad. I think it's very well said, and like make sure that I sometimes forget to say like this is really well done. I think this is heading in the right direction. It's
Thank you.
yeah. So the fact that I nitpick random things should not discourage you from feeling really good about where this is heading.
Not at all.
Give us a little more of an experiential flow of the results. In sodden frustration, I lash out, then quickly apologize. Again, what does that mean? And that is, I mean, this can be really short too. It could just be, I feel. Wow, why can't I type?
Yeah, that's a good point. I could use the dialogue there. Yeah. That's great. Good call.
Yeah.
Not far off.
And then this can probably cut, and then it'd be so much for carrying the burden of others.
Yeah.
So, there's a Catholic church next to my new apartment building, and I'm drawn to its quiet beauty. The dusty pink exterior and graceful arches, a soft scent of incense I wouldn't fuse with it. I slip inside towards the end of the service and let a deep. I don't understand the Latin and remain awkwardly still as the parishioners rise and kneel across themselves, but I walk out, shrouded in peace I can't explain. I'm back, lying on the doctor's table, trying to explain to the well-meaning nurse why I'm having my IUD removed. I don't know, was that noun established? Because I don't know if it was called that. You kind of referred to it by its properties, which I think was well done.
I don't think I did.
Yeah, you say the small T-shaped piece of
Yeah,
plastic.
which I think is a good choice, but maybe you would just, of the, IUD birth control device was mild. Because, yeah, especially if you're going to use and that's, if you're going to use a summarized term later, just establish it. All right, I'll move on. Sorry. Are you trying to get pregnant? No. Is it causing any pain? No, not really. I'm searching for the right words and fumbled out Catholic and no birth control and cringe at how irrational I sound. She asked me with concern and really pulls on the gloves. I really like the contrast of the nurse's behavior. I think if you can keep that and maybe even heighten it a little bit, that's a really interesting sense on how you and the world are coming into odds. Mm-hmm. You and the world around you. Because that goes to that overall theme of how there is a different set of logic and the world has a different set of logic. And I think that's really a smart thing. And I think that's something that's really, you don't have to hit it with a hammer. I think that something like this, where like there's a very eager nurse, doing this procedure at first, and there's a very reluctant nurse after the turn of the story. So I think that is a really very well done job there.
Thank you. I didn't even fully realize it or appreciate it until you pointed it out.
Those are the best moments.
That's part of the fun of writing is like, the subconscious brain. I mean, and probably that maybe was actually how it happened. And that's just reality, that people actually are much more reluctant around, helping someone to do a different approach than how most people do. So I think that's great, but then that also can, if your subconscious is kind of going there naturally, then may as well, explore that. How do I explain that this device became a physical medicine and a constant struggle to keep a safe distance from pain, an effort that has only caused
carved out.
Yeah.
And that's, oh no, my God.
Maybe actually, this may sound silly, but a lot of times people will do these tools of like the imagined explanation. Like this happens a lot in this TV show, Mr. Robot, where this kind of schizophrenic person will be, with his therapist, and then he'll go on this long tirade, and then at the end we realize that he was in the reality of the scene completely
That was just in
silent.
his head. Yeah, like
Yeah.
he does it in his head in the scene, and then he's like, everything's fine.
So I kind of, because as a reader, I kind of want you to explain how this device became a physical man, and I want you to make me feel the same way. And then you can still have the scene play as normally. I should have told her. I should have told her that. I've been afraid. For too long. I should have told her. I'd always thought.
So look, if I want to like, how do I say in the space of this little room or in the space of 2 minutes, and then go on to do all those, or I wanted to tell her, because this was, the reasons that I don't are, she doesn't want to hear it, she's just trying to do her job, she wants this one sentence.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. Like, it could have been, I wanted to tell her.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell her, that I've been afraid for too long.
Cool.
And then, whatever it is. I think, that was just the first repetitive device I could think of. Sorry.
Totally. No. I just wanted to make sure it was driving with what I was thinking, and I think it is.
Yeah, and none of this stuff is gospel. Especially the stuff that I write in. It's just kind of like, hopefully to just serve as just like a, like a writing prompt, really. Maybe that's like the best way to think about it. An effort that is carved. Okay, so an effort that is carved out more space for my other demons to dance, for my other demons to dance. But I would also, I actually don't know if this is a theme that we've set up yet, because I have not. I've seen the character in this story run away from pain, but I haven't seen something sinister actually come in and replace the plane, right? Like, and I haven't seen that avoidance actually. I think I wonder if maybe that existential fear that you talk about earlier could serve this purpose, to show that that avoidance of pain is actually creating something sinister that's actually beyond the natural, perhaps even.
Yeah, and that's a good question, because that's very much, like, I know this part of the story, and I think, as I mentioned before, maybe because I've written about other elements of the story before, I feel like I've told them, but I haven't in this story, where it's like, there's the indecision and the second guessing and the anxiety about whatever through the more OCD side, all of that, I think, just those sides with me, so much space. But I think you're right that I definitely haven't brought them in. So the question is, should I bring that in, or can I just cut this?
I think, in some senses, I don't necessarily want to make that decision for you. I would lean. You got a long essay here. There's a lot of stuff. So the variables, at least, that should be kind of in your rationalizations should be, all right. Do I want this to be a longer essay? Yeah, I think it can be. I think you can have a 3,000 word essay, a 7,000 word essay. I mean, most of the stuff that you read in like the New York Times is 3,000 to 5,000 word range, right? Pretty long. The other option I think to think about is, can you bring in enough of a hint to make it clear? And I think that's the thing. Like, the context that I'm saying in terms of like, hey, if you do want to set this up, the setup shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 sentences, unless you really want to blow out the essay into something different. But I don't think you'll need more than 1 or 2 things. And I think when you talk about something as as intense as some of the fears you have, I think you aren't doing them a disservice by hinting that there's something perhaps more sinister actually spurring them on. Or actually like those fears opening up. Like, I think like, I really liked this dispassionate, like, I just get a drink on my own. It's kind of like the ignorance that so many people approach uncomfortable topics with. But I think there is something really sinister in that. And maybe you can even just add an extra sentence of yourself, alone, safe from pain, but isolated at that bar, all by yourself, but you're free of whatever that pain would have been. That's pretty much all you need, is just like a little bit of like showing us the dark consequences of one of these choices. However, again, I don't think you would lose that much to focus on just the distance of pain as opposed to that secondary aspect of it. I think you could cut it. I think you could add a little bit more. I think you could add a lot more. I think it's going to just kind of be up to you, really, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah.
I sighed and lifted my feet into the stirrups. I may not be able to explain it, but I don't doubt that my decision. She removes the device. A thread of fear leaves with it. I like that a lot. And maybe you don't even need the as. That's one of the things that they say a lot in writing school is like, ases, if you can cut them, cut them. She removes the device. Period. A thread of fear leaves with it. I like
that.
Sharper. Little things, Easter 2014. The priest dabs my forehead with a chrism, and I am confirmed into the original body of the cast. No majestic feeling sweeps down the heavens to mark the moment, but I quietly relax more deeply into faith that's been guiding my steps. I return to my pew and notice a toddler 2 rows behind with Down syndrome. An older boy of 8 or 9 sits next to her brother. She looks at him with a question. I don't hear his response, but he leans into concern. He whispers, "They both grin." My heart squeezes. I know I'm not seeing the full picture live, but I see 2 kids who I suspect already know how to love better than I do. I don't know if this image is necessarily,
Yeah, if you can, so I actually merged, these were 2 very separate instances that I merged into one for the, narrative purposes. But I don't, as I read it, I don't know if those maybe should be 2 different, the emotions of those 2 experiences were actually very different. One, just of the peaceful, like, okay, like being confirmed, and then the other was sort of a more like heart squeezing, but in a good way moment of just like looking at these kids and just being like, whoa, that is really seeing it so differently than I did before, whereas before it might have been like fear, whereas in this moment it was so maybe combining these 2 pieces, the emotions, maybe it can be made
whatever. That's a bad example, but the first thing, to your first question, one thing to think about is you already have an emotional beat about leaving fear behind, right? So literally the previous thing is taking a step of faith by removing the device, and a thread of fear leaves with it, right? So we kind of have established that this fear is lessening in some ways. And I think this Easter moment is a bit verbal doubling, right? It's kind of having the same point very quickly repeated. I think that the most effective thing is, because then you say, okay, you've taken this first step. Then the next question is really, how does your view change? Because I really think the step of quote unquote faith in this story for the character happens when the IUD removes. That's how we start the story. That's the turning point of the story.
And I also feel like this mirrors some of the earlier fears she had about having a kid with genetic defects.
Yeah, I think she should have the Down syndrome part, but not the Easter part.
Yeah, you're right. That was almost mostly just to sort of move the narrative along and be like, oh, here's an event that happened, Yeah. But that might not be necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
I think it's probably implied if I just say, keep it as its own section and at math.
Yeah.
In the pew behind me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Danielle's absolutely right. I think that's a really great, because that's like the first test, right? And when you think about like the hero's journey, right? Like you're entering the new strange world, and there's going to be tests, right? So that's the first test. Is you see something that would normally cause, anxiety, these cycling thoughts, and then suddenly, it's just silence. The thoughts aren't there, or whatever that experience is for you. Or you have this like really positive experience of like, I see two kids who I suspect know love better than I do.
Cool.
I started volunteering in crisis hotline. I'm trained not to focus on solutions, but to listen to people and their problems. Training I could use in my relationship. I mean, are we all right here?
You do good. You do good. Most of the time.
I've been told she's buckling under the weight of her caring for her young daughter while trying to fend off her abusive ex-boyfriend. She's not sure whether she'll get the money for the next month's rent. And I ask, where does she find the strength to get up each day? She responds that my baby girl, she means the world to me. Some nights I walk from these conversations shaking. How be the normative human so most nights I can walk away awed by the strength of human love. That's really good. I really like the way the story feels like it's much more of a cohesive whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that whole is shifting in a different direction. Like I feel like there's an arc here, much more. So I think that's awesome. I think I'm really surprised. I've been pretty impressed. Yeah, I'm really blown away. This is awesome.
Really good. I told him this. I was like, oh, I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is looking like, I don't know how these last three sections are going to go.
Just totally blow.
But this is looking much more closer to a completed draft. I feel like to like one that where you'd only just have to polish, and obviously tweak a few stories, turn a few things around. But yeah, I think it's looking really, really strong. I'm standing at the altar of St. Dominic's Church. My soon-to-be husband hands surround mine. I'll just do word choice here. That's just phrasing. I don't need to. Above us, Gothic arches echo wisdom passed down through the ages. The priest. This personification is a little tough to my read, at least. I don't know if Fox would differ.
I don't think it's necessary.
I don't think that's true. So I mean that a little more literally because I mean the priest's voice echoing.
Oh. I would establish that.
Echo the priest's wisdom?
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe like
the priest's voice echoes through the Gothic arches. The wisdom, he's the wisdom.
Priest reads the
whatever.
Vows. Above us, the priest says, I prepare to check.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it just established that what's echoing is his voice. Yeah, I think that just needs, just...
Yes.
Thanks, Danny. She's so nice. She helps me spell. I'm in a doctor's office for the second prenatal visit. My first pregnancy. Would you like to schedule a screening to assess the risk of chromosomal abnormalities? My husband and I don't ask about our options if the test shows high risk because we already know the answer. The rules of the church dictate and will carry the pregnancy regardless, but we should still get the test if we wanted to mentally prepare for a child with disabilities. I think of the church in the pew and my heart constricts, not in fear, but with a hint of how much it could grow from living children like that. We declined the screening. I'm 38 weeks pregnant. Any day now. Dun dun dun. Literally. Tomorrow. I'm voting for the second day after tomorrow.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we'll drive up. Seriously, Chrissy.
Awesome.
We will drive up. We would love to,
as
obviously.
As soon as I'm able to leave,
Obviously, we don't want to because sometimes people want to have their own thing, but as soon as we can drive up, let us know.
It's happening, but it's going to be like 15 hours, so no rush.
Yeah, but we want to show up and celebrate. We've prided ourselves at being there.
Maybe let us know when the baby's there and we'll come up.
Yeah, we've prided ourselves at being there for a lot of first days of young folks' lives, so we like to show up if we can.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
I'm a 38-week pregnant. Any day now, I'll hold my baby in my arms. Fear still pricks. I'm struck by the realization when he's born, he won't have the protective lining of my body around him.
So this, if you want to pause for a quick second, because I added a comment that I might, given that I think he'll probably be born before I finish this, I kind of want to rewrite this with the actual feeling of
Yeah.
reality.
I mean, that's pretty metal to like walk out of the recovery room and be like, "Give me my freaking computer. I need to write down my play-by-play experiences." That's pretty freaking metal, but I can respect it.
You're pretty metal.
That's awesome. I mean, maybe like a week after.
No.
Yeah.
Day
Yeah. Day of. I mean, take
Well,
an
it's
audio
fresh.
journal maybe the day of.
Yeah.
Or lots of videos or selfie videos of just talking about how you feel. That's actually helped me and Fox a lot, is doing a little selfie video and talking about the tough days and the good days. And it's actually been something that I've been benefited a lot of looking back on.
Mhm.
I like that. I sometimes actually do. I send photos to Kevin, who doesn't have a Marco Polo account.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a good idea to do that. I don't use it for much, so yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, I can read this and kind of just see how the sentiment feels. I mean, it doesn't feel, it's not as directly addressing kind of the questions you had in your earlier drafts.
Yeah.
It depends on how you feel about that. Like, this is more of a journey around, I don't think I think the only time abortion is even mentioned is in the mother's question at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Well, and I think later when they're like, not really mentioned, but when they're like, oh, do you want to know about chromosomal? And you're like, oh, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, but that's the only one of one.
Mm-hmm.
But
mentioned,
it's hinted at. You're right, and like that's like the implication of this. I'm trying to think. I did like. I mean, because you talk about the logic of the strange God. So the other question is, I'm not seeing much of like the logic of the strange God showing up, and you actually established it earlier. So I was actually surprised it didn't come up later, because you have your brother talking about this new logic of suffering that he's experiencing. So if that doesn't come up again, I would cut a lot of the stuff down about your brother, right? Because it's a setup, but it's not paying off.
I think my thought, I kind of agree that like it's a nice ending, but it almost doesn't feel like an ending, like because some of the stuff isn't quite wrapped up. Yeah. Like there's all of these like little scenarios, little vignettes, and like it ends like one or two of them, but it doesn't really like complete all of it yet. Yeah, I think that I think that the scene with you guys in the prenatal room is the place to expand. That one, I think, is where so much, because the last bit is a wrap up. It's saying, hey, it's giving us the take, like, and this is like in screenplay, it's the final image, right? The final image is not good. Like the last line of your story is not going to carry your point home. It's going to be the grace note, right? But where your point really sits is this moment here when you're actually about your kid having to wrestle with the question of, hey, if one of these risks is actually a real risk, what am I going to choose? And so in this moment, I would really zoom out, make this longer, make this the longest section. Yeah. And that's okay. And then that can be where because I actually think the stuff with your brother is great, but that can be where that actually comes in. You're saying, hey, like my brother always talked about a new logic of suffering, what that would mean. I have seen, kids in church that have had some, chromosomal issues, and I've seen joy come out of it. I know that it's not just me following the dictates of the church. It's actually me believing that there's something bigger than just my current suffering. So I kind of want to see that shift too, because it still feels, because you're talking about, we already know that the rules of the church dictate. Yeah. That line does not tell me it's a Chrissy decision as much as it is a... Yeah, I was going to say that too. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like, really but what you want, I mean, you kind of say, oh, we would want it anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, it feels like an afterthought, not the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a huge edit. Like, I think the biggest thing is just expanding this section to fit. And, like, you know, and it may sound really silly, but if you print this out and you draw lines to all the other stories, to all the little things, and say, okay, how, and because you have to have one moment that brings it all home, or else you'll have to cut what can't fit in some ways.
Yep.
So that might be a helpful tool, is to say, okay, this, and just draw the line to like the brother setup and say, okay, he brings up the principle of the strange God there, and about suffering through. Okay, this sentence about suffering through whatever pays that off. This one pays off that. Like, you know, and that will really drive. And I think this essay is great. Like, I've been actually very, very like blown away. And I think it just needs this section, and it's okay. Make it as long as it needs to be. That's the one thing. Don't worry about length. Make it as long as it needs to be. And I think you're actually really good on length everywhere else. I think it's just this one section can be, just give it a little bit more room to breathe.
Even just looking at it, you could have an interaction with a nurse in that scene to contrast with the other nurses.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that would fit in necessarily, but it would like touch back on.
Totally
Be like the third and final nurse, the one that's not. Yeah.
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 Okay.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I think that's an awesome idea.
Do you think I should keep the section above it? I was thinking if I were to cut something that's really short, so it wouldn't help that much anyway. But if I were to cut something, I was thinking I don't know that I needed the marriage part, though I thought that provides.
I think it's important. I mean, like, it's small. I feel like it's okay because it like not only establishes that you're like you've gotten married, but also that like you've embraced that aspect of your faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this one, are you prepared to accept children?
Yeah. Is that the one you're talking about?
Or the volunteering
sorry.
one above?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that I agree. That's good too.
Okay.
I think this is good.
Mm-hmm.
I would almost use this wording, not exactly, because I really think that is a huge question, right? You know? So I think that I would use that wording further back to like set up, like, you know, not even like when your brain is spinning, kind of when you described earlier about all these fears and stuff, try putting some of like this, like, you know, accepting a child into my life, like that type of stuff can make it echo. Like this you're right. I think it is a really important point, but it doesn't feel, it could probably just have one word or one line just setting it up a little bit more.
Yeah. I like that. I was just reading, there's a line in The Distributor that I was reading today where you echoed back to something. I made a comment. I'm going to share my very sparse, but I was reading it in the words. I'm not going to comment it all the whole parts, but it's like, it was the echo back. I was like, that is so good.
Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Fox is giving me a background because she's my very big supporter. I hope you've been liking it. I'll have to pick your brains on the story very soon.
Yeah, I'm almost done with it, and I had my first like high level thought of like, oh, I felt like it slowed down a little bit for the first time in one part, so I can give you that.
Great.
Like, I have something constructive. And then I just have a few tiny little things where I'm like, oh, I like this, or it's really just like, anyway.
Well, that's very, very helpful. All of it. I mean, it's like the same with this. Like, and that's something I want to do better in my editing, and that's why I'm trying to like be like, hey, like this line or this moment really works, because like it helps. Like when you go back and revise, you're like, ooh, you know, for at least one reader, that was a really effective moment. How do I, you know, like just not blindly cut it unless there's like a really good reason to, obviously.
But I
But
feel like you do that really well. I feel very encouraged by your critiques. So I don't think I think you do that very well.
well, thank you so much. Well, dude, I'm blown away. I think this is I think as silly as it sounds, like I think I think this is really close. I think don't be too afraid of in very small. I think this is the right amount of showing. I think you would be all right if you put in a sentence or a prepositional phrase or two of telling and guiding us a little bit. I don't think it's necessary, but I think the architecture is working right now. I think where most of that guidance and telling will happen and that summarizing will happen in the second to last section. I think that one, it's okay to just open up and just let it all come in and kind of wrap up. And remember, when you are in that telling space, it's okay, but literary devices and the language that you use are what can help continue to generate emotion. So then just think about how can I do this through varying sentence structure, putting the base clause earlier than later, and straining out the payoff of the sentence. Those types of questions will matter a lot more when you're in that quote unquote telling mode.
Cool. And I do think ultimately it probably will still be less directly. I do think I'll tie in the abortion more in this paragraph than in this draft, but I think I'm okay with that overall it's a less direct addressing of another thing. At some point I'm going to form your thoughts on titles. But yeah.
I think you're absolutely right. There's no need to be super on the nose about your thoughts. I actually think it's I think the point is stronger because I'm following one person on a journey through their very intimate decision about how to interact with such a tough topic and a complicated topic. And I think that you've handled it really, really well. I think, and maybe to clarify that point, if you are going to do more telling, it will be to just give us slight more clarity on where the emotional beats are at each place. Because I think the events are really clear, what's happening in all the scenes is really clear. I think and I think it's so pretty much there, I'm almost reticent to give this kind of just encouragement. But it would be just, how can I just feel every moment exactly the way you felt them on this journey and be really precise with those feelings, because then that's what's carrying your theme now, right? Because in the previous drafts where you were operating in a more didactic kind of hey, this is the logic, the thought, the idea is what's carrying your theme. Now this is much more of an emotional journey of a character. So then you have to think about it, and the communication that I'm doing of my theme is now directly reliant on the emotions and how well I've made someone feel how the character is feeling. And that's just, I think you're doing such a fantastic job, but that's just something to just kind of keep rolling around. Look for little tweaks and optimizations, and I think you're going to do fantastic.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
I love you. Almost mama. Use a almost mama.
It's a labor of love. The whole, it feels, it feels really beautiful to have you guys working on this with me.
Oh man, it's a blessing for us, and it's great. I mean, I'm finally actually going through and thinking about nonfiction more. And I'm oh yeah, what are the mechanics behind it? So it's a great educational thing for us too. So it's always a blast. And
to be a very good little writer.
Yeah, you should read. Oh man, we should pull up one of the original ones.
Yeah.
And read one of the early works, and I think you'll be blown away. I think there's been a lot of just amazing technique and thought that's been brought into play in these. I wish I improved in my writing as fast as you seem to improve. It's been 6 months, and you're writing really.
I've learned from the best, so.
Gosh, I don't know. I just suffer through for God knows how long. That's life, isn't it? Well, we'll let you get to bed. I hope that wasn't too late. I tried to hopefully.
I tried to keep him on track.
I'm still, I'm awake. I'm ready-ish
Excellent.
for bed, but I'm energized by.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah.
Love you guys too, and I'll be in touch. I'll let you know when things are actually moving and not having slave labor.
August 2nd. August 2nd.
I'm thinking August 8th. Just one more week. You got this.
Alright, I'll accept either of those, but I prefer August 2nd.
Okay, that's fair enough.
All right. Well, take care. Have a great one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, folks. I'll be right back. I'm gonna put Foxy to bed, and I probably have some energy left, so I'm gonna do another edit. There is one edit in the queue, so we're getting to the queue at long last. And then maybe we'll play some video games. Who knows? After that. But yeah, give me a few seconds. I'm gonna help her get to bed, and we will start another edit momentarily. All right, I return. I return. I have one more story in the queue. And then I actually might read one of my friend's screenplays who sent me, but he asked me not to do it on stream. So too bad for all y'all. All right, Word doc editing. Here we go. Cat, what kind of... Why are you so weird? Come sit. Yeah, you want to cuddle. I know. My cat, the brat. Want to snuggle. Alright, folkies. Let's get down to business. Also, I see that we have some viewers but no chatters, so feel free to jump in if you're quietly lurking and you have any questions. Always love saying hi. Hello, cat, that's a fish. Why are you so cute and made of meows? Man, she's the cutest cat in the world. She's my cute little baby sweet. And Danielle always makes fun of me because I'm obsessed with the cat. I am. Look at this beast. What a sweet little monster. All right, well, that was an awesome essay. Hopefully you could hear some of our friend chatting. They were getting our feedback on it, and fun to, I think it's good for y'all to hear from the writers and see what kind of questions writers are struggling with. Oh, and I forgot to change all this stuff around. Hold on one memento. Enable. Alright, so that works. And I'm going to switch this. Properties. Hello, Catata Fish. Goodbye, Catata Fish. And she leaves. Alright. My no one. Write a story where people have virtual conscience implanted in their mind that provides the person with advice when called upon. I wish I had one of those. Like, Jeff, no! Stop. He smells like fresh beige bag. The welcome conscious lingering stink of damp concrete. Gives him slowly gingerly on the cheeks, standing on the tips of my toes because I have long since said that I will forever be barely taller than the height limit on a roller coaster. Smiling, he accepts such a... Alright. And the hands me back my umbrella before decking the cover of the train station overhang. See you, I say, waving in the hope that I was... The hope is as cute as I intended. Don't overstay. Alright. I think it's... What is that giving? Okay. So... This is a style choice. Whenever you have two modifiers, unless you really want, so whenever you have two modifiers, I'm just gonna write it in. Oh, darn it. Wrong account. Fooey magooey. Let's do this. There we go. Whenever you have two modifiers, it's sometimes best to choose the best of the two. Gingerly, unless you want the,
list to slow down the pace. You know, to slow to. All right. I've also accepted that I will forever be barely taller than the height limit on a roller coaster. Smiling, he accepts the gesture and hands me back my umbrella before ducking under the cover of the train station overhang. See you, I say. Oh, ow, cat. Of course, she likes to claw my face because she's rude. Alright. I don't know. The brown shirt messenger bag disappear, followed by his head of unwieldy red hair, bold, bright, eye-catching. Everything I could never be. Yet somehow he's found a reason to disagree. The rhyming feels a little weird here. It wasn't me, cat. I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. He's so cozy. Look at this little fat lard. What a cat. Yeah, yeah. Step after step takes me further from the station. My mind remains there in that space where, for once, I was more than myself. I think this is a little too on the nose. I think we're getting too much. There's a little too much self-referential. I think most of it isn't a bad thing, but a line like this that's so metaphorical, metaphor-driven, self-reflexive for the character strikes false note. It feels a little too hyper idealized the way this character is kind of thinking about themselves. I just want to kind of like those vibrating pagers at an upscale restaurant. Ooh, I don't know if I don't know if I like that particular metaphor. I'm turning over. And I would just ask the question, is this what butterflies feel like? And it brings us much more into the scene. You know, perhaps I think that that feels like a little summarized. And I think it's not a bad thing to zoom a little tighter into the scene there. Hello, catata fish. Yes, scratchy scratch. Yes, 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 yes. Sorry. It's not my fault. It's the adorable cat. It's my adorable meow meow. Do you have something with your ears, cat? Are your ears alright? Sidewalks are more crowded than usual. As I see, reflecting on him. After I settle in, I really like the first few sentences, the first few paragraphs. I feel like some of the styling is a little. Sidewalks are more crowded than usual, but I see many differently colored raincoats and ponchos. Are packed with many and then you can use that. Yeah, I don't know. And remember, because you have this with a comma, and browse the difference is floating by overhead. Float by overhead. I don't think you need this introduction. I would show, don't tell. You know, my mind returns to his, you know. Whatever, in the back of his head. So remember, so what I'm trying to do is make this more visual. So I wanted to make this, it's easier to just describe what what aspect of the, you know, boy, did we get the boy's name? No, what the boy's you know, person she's reflecting on, rather, and yeah, I don't know if my spelling is very good, but it is what it is. I'm just kind of doing my thing. All right, on we go. I should check the my internet down? No, looks like it's still working. All right, good. Good. Who needs internet? All right. Smile his hair's nearness. Can't think about him. Not sure what. walked on the empty path to my condo, letting myself in with the key. Oh, I should probably double space this so I know how much I'm actually reading. I ascended the steps and walked down the empty path to my condo, letting myself. We kind of know. Like walking moments like this are not always the most necessary. Sorry, I'm listening to the Dance Macabre on my headphones. Novelith! Hello, hello. Now I'm thinking of all my walking moments. That's true. It's not always necessary. So all you need here is like at home, the drab walls, and my condo. You know, right now I remember the overcast sky doesn't quite get to me. Again, it's a little vague. Viper Monkey, welcome, welcome. How goes it? Good to see ya. Welcome to this nice evening edit. Maybe I'll even do some of my friend's screenplay that I was going to read. Depends on how late it gets. The overcast sky doesn't quite get to me. The tune is a little vague, you know. Outside the rain has died down to light drizzle. Can I go to editing now? Darn. I'm eating the living room, open magazines, and half-eaten food greet me. Greet me is really heavily used. I don't know if it's necessary, but that's just a thought. Just a heavily used device. You know, don't need to cut, just be aware. This is a pretty heavily used device. How you doing, Viper Monkey? Do you do any writing, editing, storytelling? Fictional, fantastical, fun things? One moment. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Sorry about that. running around a little bit tonight. Yep, I did a lot of essay stuff in college, obviously, but I got some ideas for fiction stuff too. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Fiction is a blast, and it's a really great way to just share with other people what's going on to enrich their lives with your perspective. My roommate Eva is nowhere to be seen. The place is quiet. Does knowing I wonder if this is all necessary. You know, she could have at least cleaned, before. This feels a little too. This reflection feels a little void of emotion. It's I don't know. I don't know if that's a good suggestion, but it just feels like it's a very pulled back narrator because it's something I know I will gain nothing. That's a very distant narrator. It's a narrator reflecting on their thoughts, not someone who's actually in the scene thinking. So the more that you can zoom into that narrator in the moment of the scene, the better in some ways. Cat is sleeping instead of cuddling with me and saying nice things. How obnoxious. I'm just kidding. I step around the mess and head for my room. And then I'll come back to clean up later. For a moment I thought she was dead. And I kind of like it. I think I don't mind that. When I read that scene, I was like, "Holy crap! Is Eva dead? Has she like been murdered in some horrible way? Maybe it's the guy that she was hanging out with." No, but I don't. I know that's not the case, but I liked that. It was a cool image. She's so into her homework. Um, she's so into her homework. Not even letting herself think about a guy. Hello, hello. That's weird. I don't know why that suddenly went dead, but I don't like it. Alright. Yeah, I don't know why she's not even letting herself think about the guy on the way to do her homework. What's his name? I asked with a sigh. Alan, she chokes out. And we probably already know it's ugly. Stream of snot and tears, tissues. What did Alan do this time? He did it by text of all ways. So we kind of know. I feel like this is a little on the nose. It's all, or slightly cliched. This is a moment I've read about and seen hundreds of times. Give me something in your story that offers a unique twist on this. Does her friend not get is her friend so like he broke up with me. I called customer service. They said AIs don't have feelings. I like that. AIs have no feelings. Yeah, I feel like this feels a little stylized. So yeah, it's like her friend's so oblivious she doesn't realize she's reading a book. This feels very stylized. Like reading a, anime. However, if you're going to go for a more, mellow approach, you'll want to really hype things up to keep it engaging. Perhaps even adding some sort of conflict between these two characters. Maybe they're both dating. How'd that change the scene? Yeah. But it feels very stylized. It feels very like, oh my, oh, you know what? She comes home, the room is messy. There's the girl sitting up straight with tears running down her eyes. It reads a lot like I'm watching like an anime with that like the very like hyper stylized type like and she's like bloop reads a book and reads a book while the other person's talking and crying and yeah. Like it feels very like you know punchy silly like that, which is okay. But when you think about those things that they usually the stylization is secondary to what's going on in the story, and they're I mean sometimes there's a lot of animes I think that don't really have well developed stories and they're not really thinking very hard about the characters, um, but there are some that do, and those will usually have other stuff going on in the scenes, like a someone trying to look cool or someone trying to prove something to the other person. You know, um, you know, yeah. There's always some goal and obstacle, and I think that's a little bit of what's missing in this particular portion. Mm-hmm. All right, 5 of 9. Still haven't seen any conflict. I like the mysterious voice, but because of the prompt, I kind of know who it is. We're halfway through. Now I'm thinking about all my scenes of someone listening to a meltdown. How many? Yeah. How many of those scenes do you really have? Now I'm thinking about my walking moments. Now I'm thinking about my meltdown scene moments. I mean, it's pretty much this. The story so far, the action of it is just this girl kissing a guy, going home, listening to her friend, talking about something. We don't see any choices. I want to see the main character make choices, and I want to see some of the perils or benefits of having a conscience in one's head. At your suggestion, I sit up promptly from my chair and spouts and non-spouty bros. Better off without eyeliner. Shoo her away. Albert slammed the door and showed my work. Okay, so again, she's not really making choices here, right? She's just a slave to the voice in her head. Again, the main character isn't making a choice either. She's obedient to a fault to the voice in her head. I wonder, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? There's not really much, we don't get much of a value out of it. We don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Every single my book is put with thoughts of him. But why not earlier? His jokes, his laughter. Flow state. Listening to Meltdown number 1. Walking moments of my story 2. Listening to Meltdown 1. Well, maybe I'm wrong then, Novelith. Can we find up characters without agency as long as it serves the story? That's true, but we don't really have any motives. I haven't seen much motive in the magical voice that's controlling her, and we're a little ways in, right? We're 5 out of 9 pages. So at that point, you want to see some development, and I haven't seen much yet, though. Not disagreeing with you. The question is that does this character's lack of initiate hurt the narrative? Yeah, only or do they serve the plot as an act as a camera? Setting my 2 cents. No, I think that's very good. I hope it's showing up on screen, right? I want the author to hear your all's comments because hey, everybody should have an opinion on the story. Is that showing up? It's showing up, right? Yes. Okay, excellent. It's showing up right on my picture. Great. My chat was blocking it, but yeah, no, I think it's very important. I mean, like you said, Miak, it comes down to trade-offs, right? If you're going to trade off a protagonist's agency or a viewpoint character's agency, you're gonna want something really big in return for the point for your story, because it's a very losing your protagonist agency loses a lot of engagement that the reader will have, because this is not a person who's making choices, it's more of a machine. So then in those senses there needs to be a really big payoff on the other side of the fence there. I was always there too. I reluctantly click back to my browser from the correct citation. I wonder how Eva manages to make so many mistakes with her voice to guide her. Alright, so we get the backstory here. Her voice there to guide her. Yes, our present. Alright, I kinda like this. I like this concept. I want to get a sense. So I like the concept of the voices. I like the way this story is developing that idea, but I want to get a sense of, like, is it qualitatively good? Is it qualitatively bad? How does this character feel about it? She seems to fully accept her voice without question or without resentment. That's a little surprising because it's pretty harsh. Um, That's a bit surprising. Like, I think if a voice started randomly shouting to me as my conscience, I'd be a little surprised. I would be annoyed. I'd be annoyed sometimes. Like, think about the Lord of the Rings when, Bilbo, when Gandalf is asking Bilbo, give me the, put the ring away, leave it for Frodo. And Bilbo's like, no, it's mine. Like, he's not, the reader is able to kind of notice that something weird is going on, but we're not really getting that here. It seems very like what you see is what you get. There's not much subtext in terms of what the voice is versus how we're experiencing it. Okay, now I'm experience. I'm gonna start reading a little faster because I do want to get to the end because it's a short story, but I might not do as many detailed notes because I think some of that stuff should give you stuff to. Like, I imagine the rest of the story will change if you're actually incorporating those notes. When I activated, I was on a beach playing with a shelf. One of the cell weeks of being assured the shell. I get my voice. Activated on the beach. So I can't resist this. So she hadn't really. Does the void been there? Well, it protects me if I didn't realize it. Yes, yes, yes. To my and your satisfaction. Stress eating a clock for her. Funny line like that. From when a guy named Alan is introduced. From when a guy named Alan is introduced. I'm a little confused over this line. Might need to rephrase. So it looked like I got 2. Yeah, thought that was gonna happen. It's gonna be the same person. I wonder. Somehow wasn't super shocked to me. I hope that she disobeys. So I kind of knew that it was gonna be the same guy, but I'm hoping that at least this character will disobey the voice and kind of have her own, take the risk and say I'm still gonna try, or maybe it's because, or maybe did he break up with him because he likes her, Anyways. Why is the voice trying to stop her? Is the voice trying to stop her from keeping away from the guy? It's been, yeah, it's a little confusing on the motives here. I want those motives to, yeah, I really want the motives to be a little sharper for both the characters and the voices. Do the characters really want to obey the voices? Or are they forced? Or does the voice have some, secret motive? Stuff like that. I'd like to see that. It feels like there's a little more we can do. Voices! I know, I'm hearing voices too. I grab my things and head out. There's the students. Da-da-da. Feel his eyes on me. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Instead of stopping, I know one. Quick footsteps trail. So wait. See, I didn't expect. So I see that she's disobeying. I like that. I see that she's disobeying her voice here, but it's not super clear that disobedience is her intention. Maybe establish until a little late in the moment. Quick footsteps, they sneak off. So they beat the crap out of this guy. Did they kill him? Is that what happens? That's intense. Freaking murderous chicks. She gave him a very chaste, seemed very, I don't see how this would kill the voice. Is it the act of disobedience? Or are they killing him? Have murders been removed? Been expunged with the voices. Suddenly, this is the first murder. Yeah. Without pain, I feel like I know. If I make my voice's ancestors now and it's finished, I hold my textbooks home, looking down on the growing mess of a man who still smells like freshly baked bread. That you never thought could exist. All because of my no one. Oh, my camera got all blurry. That's intense. Why is it zoomed in so close? Stop it. Alright, there we go. Alright, I like the idea. Okay, so overall, good. I like the idea of the story. Kept engaged, curious. The characters are fun, and the humor is great throughout. Things to improve. We need a little more mythology around the voices. You know, why would beating up a jerk totally break them? We need sharper motives for the characters. She seems happy to be free of her voice at the end of the story. But in the beginning and through the middle, she's blissfully obedient. We need a hint of a motive of freedom for her. Not sure why the voice cared that she went into that room or not with the other girls. Not sure why the boy went into the room with the other girls to get his butt kicked. Did it predict, or yeah, how did it know that something bad would happen? Those types of questions I'd ask. Trip the Wolf, hi, welcome. Kind of coming in towards the medium end of the stream. I might wrap up a little early tonight, or play a few games. I might wrap up early tonight. It's been a long day, but I did want to finish up. My queue is empty. My queue is empty, believe it or not. The girls get his butt kicked. I didn't get why they so smitten the boy after one kiss. She pretty young and naive, or just because he was interested in her when she didn't think was pretty. A lot of motives and continuity questions. I'm not going to go into more. There's a few more that I wrote in line. A lot of motive and continuity questions. Excellent. Kind of thinking about streaming myself. That's awesome. Well, here, I'm going to host you then, Trip the Wolf. I didn't know you streamed. Did I follow you? Do I follow you? I should follow you, right? I hope I do. I try to follow most of you wonderful folks, but I will Give me a bit of your good old Hitman. Nice. Very cool. Anyways, I kind of gotta do tests and stuff. Well, do your homework. If there was a voice in your head that was your installed automatic conscience, it would tell you to do your homework first. So do your homework first. Take it from a grouchy old son of a gun that you'll be thankful in the long term because you only get one brain. You get a lot of video games. Video games are cheap. A brain is hard to find. No. I meant for the stream. Oh. I was like, whoa, hey. Sounds like you might destroy me, your voice of conscience. Audio quality for the game. I see. Well, what I can do is I'll host another channel in the short term, and then if I see you jump on, I will host you. And no worries. Everyone should give you a follow anyways, and they'll see you. Maybe I've been watching some Super Mario Maker. So this guy's pretty awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off, put the Super Mario Maker on, and take out my trash that smells like dead fish. So I'll see you all very soon, and I'll probably be streaming tomorrow evening. So get excited. Maybe I'll even be playing WoW, which people have told me I gotta play. So I'm actually going to start trying to play WoW. Crazy as that sounds. Maybe I should play some now, but no. I want to do some more work. Anyways, everybody, take care. Have a great night. Bye-bye.